Welcome back to the second part of Sustainable Natural Resource Management. Let's recap what we learned last week. We have been through natural resources. What is the definitions? What is the classifications? What is the key feature and even threat within the natural resources itself? We also learn about what is paradox of natural resources. It started, most of sustainability started with natural resources and how it come with series of definitions and ideas of sustainable development. And we also go through what is definitions of natural resource management. It must be the ability, I hope you reflect upon it, ability to keep stocks and even monitoring. There's the keywords there. And also sustainable natural resource management. We pick up, I think we're done with one of the renewable resources, which is forestry. And we're moving toward the other one. And hopefully we can finish that non-renewable, and we are closing with concluding remarks. I hope you still remember this figure here, that there's a renewable resources and non-renewable resources. And then there's several key features exhibited by each of these natural resources. Could be accessibility, uneven distributions across countries, externalities and dominance of natural resources, and volatilities of that resources as well. Last week, we ended with the forestry. Now, let's move to the water. Water is one of the resources or natural resources that's very important to the world. Looking at these two special issues here by National Geographic and even Reader's Digest, I know there's a lot more articles on water issues across the globe. But this is two special issues globally that looking at the water itself, even looking at our thirsty world or Asia looming environmental crisis and how every drop counts. Key features within the water sustainability, if we want to manage them, there's four main features. Either it could be access of water, could be shortage of water, and even the quality of water, and to some extent, the sedimentations within the water that not including the access, shortage, or the quality of the water itself. If we look at the water, so this is some figure here by USGS governments looking at water globally. Out of all 100% of water, only 2.5 of the water are fresh water, which is, I think, useful for all of us. But 97.5 of those are saline water, which is located in oceans and other sources. And out of that 2.5 water that exists, which is fresh water, 69% of them are kept in the glacier or an ice cap, and only 30% of them are groundwater, and 1.2% of them are surface water. And then can you imagine that we have more resources are being kept in the glacier and then groundwater, and only 1.2% of them are being used as a surface water. If we look at the daily life, we look at the picture here, we realize that the most water being used for baths, which is 1.36 liters, water, and 19 for shower and toothbrushing. This is what we use daily. Consider we take baths daily or shower, either one. You can save less with your shower, but toothbrushing, and definitely we need it for toilet though. Yeah. So this is thing that we human daily use. And beside human daily use, this is what the use of water mainly. 70% of 1.2 surface water that we have are being used for agriculture, and 20% of them are for industry that support the life of human being, and only 8% of them are for personal use. And you can imagine that where does the water goes. And how crucial the water is and how it impacts the human life. Why is the sustainable natural resource management for water very crucial? Because every 20 seconds, a child dies from water they are drinking. It means a lot of children are dying due to water. And at any one time, half the world hospital bed are occupied with patients suffering from waterborne diseases. I mean, not just die from it, diseases also, one or half of it are due to water diseases. And this is an average of African women have to walk about 4 hours each day to collect and receive water. And 3.575 million people die each year from water-related disaster that equal to the city of Los Angeles. I mean, the populations of people die of water diseases every year. That's quite a big number, though. And if you look at the natural disaster caused by this water, also 90% of natural disasters in 1990s were water related. If you look there, the biggest would be flood. Even storm, the second impact is also due to water. And if you look through, this could be drought, so part of the water is lack of water, and earthquake also a secondary impact of it could cause a lots of gas to tsunami, etc. So if you look at this figure here, realize that the water are very, play quite a big role in human life, from our daily needs to support the needs to agriculture, and even impacts life, from disaster to diseases, all was come from water. Thus, the significance of sustainably manage this water resource are very important. And this is few things that we ought to know, that 263 river basins globally are shared by 2 or more nations in the world. I don't have to give you some example, maybe from your own country. You can see that, it cut goes through states, cut goes through country. In the case of Malaysia, there's a river that we share with Thailand. So do in China, there's a lot of river that you share with other country as well. The water from China goes to even down up down to Thailand. And even some are shared from India down to Bangladesh. So wherever you come from, you can look, across the globe. There's several water or particular river basin that we share between nations. Looking at the crucial needs of water, we realize that water resource managements are very crucial. And often the key things here is managing the resource itself. Because why managing the resources is very crucial? Because we start with how can we manage the resource, understand the resource. Remember, how can we, manage the water? Start with managing resources. But others also looking at 1/3 of it, looking at managing the water services. This is what we did, though, presence. Either managing resources, managing water services, or this is another part, managing trade-off needed between balance, supply, and demands. This is more to it, need more water? How can we supply that? Where can we get the water? I think Malaysians are very much, work within this three framework, either managing resources for the country itself, managing the water services that we have to provide for the state, because some state doesn't have much water, then some state have to provide for it, or even trade-off needed to balance and supply demand, because the country also supply for Singapore's needs of water. So when we look at the picture here, the trade-off are very crucial, and often this is become the key point in water resource management, instead of 1/3 of managing resources and managing water services. At the global level at present, the trade-off are far more, more prevalent compared to the other two, whereby we need to have the balance in managing resources and managing the water service itself. People in Selangor here in Malaysia definitely can understand both managing the resources and managing the water services. It's either they don't have the resources or the water is so polluted and you have to service it better. Yeah. What does the country have commitment? I believe the country as well have commitment in managing water resources sustainably. And Malaysia, I think we are more critical. If you look through your policies of the country, water is one of the key things that have been the key issues within each country. Uh, this is Malaysia commitment through Pan Malaysia Plan, looking at management of resource across the entire water cycle. Remember, managing the resource itself. Therefore, more water drawn to how water is treated and supplied to citizens. It's more like the service to water and how is water returned to environment. To expand the implementations of integrated water resource management, IWRM, and integrated river basin management, approach in planning, managing, protecting, and rehabilitating water resources. Country like Malaysia, we're looking at the other two parts are more critical, managing resources and managing the quality of water supply. If you look at the pictures, this is one snippets from a newspaper that we have here in Malaysia. This is writing in search of water, particularly in the area of lowland. We have difficulty with surface water. Therefore, these states, which is located on the east sides of Malaysia, rely upon groundwater the most. So they among the states that use the most groundwater resources in the country. Due to their water quality, they have difficulty in water quality. Their surface water quite polluted. I think Malaysians aware of it, that there is a series of logging in the water catchment area and cause this kind of pollutions, particularly sedimentations to some extent. And it is undrinkable and cause a lot of flood. This area is known as Kota Baru. So, and the 10 commitments of Malaysia plan, we're looking at how can we get water to fit the needs of the people in that area, particularly in that state. Looking at the water, this is the access of water and how global change, sustainable prosperity, and planetary boundaries are influenced by, you will start with one area here. For example, water security as an entry point. We're looking at management and investments. It definitely can impact the food supply and demand. Because do you remember more than 70% of water used for food demands, particularly for agriculture, which is supply food for the needs of the people, food productions and water quality. And also some part of this water used for energy, although at present we still consider the impact. It's not, I think most of the country have it, though not everybody really utilize that, probably due to some political constraint as well. So energy productions using water are very, at present, very high needs of water supply for energy, either hydropowers or mainly hydropower, that we need a quality of water. We need a strong water to produce that. So we see that the water supply itself and demand supply sometimes become, and I said, it's definitely impact the energies and the food demands of each of the country, or not just country, but also globally, people who involved in this water supply itself. And this is water security. Speaking of water security, we started with, there are 4 things that influence water security: good governance, transboundary corporations, financings, and peace and political stability. What is water security? It is the capacity of the population to safeguard sustainable access to adequate quantities of acceptable quality of water for sustaining livelihood, human well-being, and socio-economic development, for ensuring protections against waterborne pollutions and water-related diseases, and for preserving ecosystem in a climate of peace and political stability. That is according to UN on water in 2013. If you look at this picture here and this figure, you realize that the water is not just alone by itself. There's three other things that influenced by it at the transboundary of, based on that definitions, the needs of the humans, adequate quantity of water, drinking water, and human well-being, and to sustain the ecosystem itself and protect us from the water-related and climate change hazard caused by on water and even the changes in the environment. And we know that this is often the key focus by many of country economic activities and economic development, but for food, for productions, industry, etc. And this is the area that water security influence the economic ecosystems and the climates and how we can control it. So there's four things that we ought to look into if we want to secure the water security, good governance as part of the management itself, transboundary cooperation, so part of the management. I hope you get back to the previous slide that we've been talking about the nexus between water and government, peace and political stability and financing versus. In the case of Malaysia, if I jog your memory back to the slides of Pan-Malaysia Plan, we are taking the initiative of integrated water resource management, integrated river basin management, because both of these managements involve various stakeholders from public, private, and NGOs. Why? Because we realize that, it is not easy to manage water singularly, but by looking at integrated water resource management, we're looking at each policies posed by these various stakeholders and how even public and privates can contribute to these policies and how best we can implement. And also IWRM also linkages is ISWM, ISEC. This is all related to water, geopark, sustainable forest management, environmental economics, sea, good governance, ecosystem approach, and etc. And it's not singularly by itself, but looking at other existing approach and how it can be integrated within them. The four principle within IWRM that being, the decisions, the governance, and the approach are based on these four principles. First, water are finite and valuable resource. What does it mean? We always have the water and it's valuable. We need to appreciate that way. And we know that managing water, we need participatory approach, not just one singular group of people, not just one stakeholder, but numbers of people who own it, benefit on it. And it is looking at another important role of women in water. This is extended role. Beside, I know men always have this role, but there's a role of women in finding water and collecting water in several countries, most of the country. And also water as economic goods. Realize as well, not just water is finite and valuable resource, but water also can contribute to water as economic goods. Therefore, with these ideas, this is how all the governance are being written and prepared for in sustainable resource management of water resources. And river management in Malaysia have been implemented by looking at, looking at the ecosystems. It's more like the basin within the country itself. At present, we've been working with several river basins in the country and how these river basins influence the water management within the area. And if you look at the picture here, this is how does the river basin have been looking at from the source of the river and main rivers or tributaries to the main river channel and confluence and into the river, mouths of the river. And you can imagine this is what happened to a series of rivers that shared by several countries or river basin that shared by several countries. Yeah. And in the case of integrated river basin management, this is a more integrated approach, which is looking at sustainable management of water, the river, the people, the land and flora and fauna, and national geographic boundaries of the area. So this is more encompassed in the way they're looking at it. Therefore, they involve more people in managing the water itself. In the case of managing integrated river basin management, there's a series of activities have been conducted on this part, either in the country or regionally. Yeah. And they also looking at coordinating conservations, management and development of water, land and related resources, and looking at river basin as a bigger picture to maximize economic and social benefit from the water itself. So if you're looking at integrated river basin management, it's much bigger picture. They're looking at coordinating the work. But how does it implement? I think some are still in early stage, medium stage, and some could be in the end stage of it. There are several practical ways have been conducted by several countries, and even in Malaysia, some part have been very successful, in which we're looking at managing, coordinating conservations within Langat River Basin, and management and development of water within the river basin itself, and the land and resources. So that might be some example that have been putting into this integrated river basin management across the globe. There's a special problem by UNESCO on river basin management as well as integrated water management. Okay, we're done with water. Let's move to the non-renewable resource. We started with soil. Somebody might ask, why the soil being part of non-renewable? We can put some kind of fertilizer and, we can have it back. We can use it. But nonetheless, this is the key things that within why it's called non-renewable, because we know that pressure of agriculture on soil, it's a cost generating sufficient of farm income opportunity, and pressure on natural resource increase due to expansions of intensifications of agriculture and commercializations of some of the agriculture, so some of the product itself. So more land are being used for these purposes. So the soil is, do you hear the next picture will show us how the soil quality impact the environmental quality, and it will impact the agricultural sustainability. And the soil quality itself, is the chemical factors exceeding the physical factors, the biological factors. It's imbalance, and you can see there's also imbalance in terms of water quality, air quality, and soil quality. In this case, we just look at one side of it, which is soil quality. If there's an imbalance in that, there's already lack of nutrition, and you have to put many other things in it. You definitely can cause economic sustainability. I mean, your soil cannot produce more crops than it should be. And it's also cause social viability to the people who are particularly the farmers, and also cause environmental quality. This example, I don't have to pull it out, because if you look into your agriculture within your country, you will get the idea of this. In the case of Malaysia, the most crucial area here is a producer of food for the country in the Cameroon Highlands, which is we work as a country to to rejuvenate the soil quality within that area. That's a hard work though. Still in progress. There's a lot of research that been conducted so that we can keep that environmental quality of the environment within that area to either sustain the products that we want to have or create new products as well. And we're looking at this, let's look at this in terms of energy for food and land. This could be on the other side. It could be, because if you speak of So it's speak of either the water, you look at the top there, consumptions of soil moisture and fresh water by agriculture. And this is if you have intensifications, run up the sediments and cause all of this. And also even the food itself for land and energy, land use for mining, biofuel, biomass. You not just use water. Sorry, we are soil. The soil are not just being used um, for food productions, but also for mining as well. And also you use it for many other area and impact the energy for food and land as well as energy for water. And everything that we do in the soil itself, it's have some implications to all renewable impacting the non-renewable. Non-renewable also impacting the renewable resources that we have. So now it's more crucial to look at the non-renewable. To remember non-renewable resources that we cannot, we cannot produce it within our lifetimes because it took billion of years or billion of years to be produced. You can produce some in lab, but it might not be able to fit the needs of everyone. So sustainable mining in the way, how does we call it sustainable then if we cannot reproduce it? So we're looking at sustainable mining in two ways. The extractions of the mineral resources itself, either continuously extracting with some amount that we can estimate it by, okay, we have this million tons here, so we will divide it for 20 years or 30 years, so we will have this product for 30 years. So this is what mean extractions of mineral resources that we have continuously, indefinitely, or within some frame of time. But also sustainable mining, also looking at sustainable development. You're not just extracting resources, but because often this process of extracting will destroy the environments instead of preserving. But now we're looking at how can we preserve it? And often mining is, push away all the indigenous community, all their culture and their welfare, and not just will be truth life as well. If you read about this diamond minings, yeah, you know how it could be. Not just diamond though. There's so many diverse mining globally. Even Malaysia itself in this country. Do you remember when the river turned red? Not because of blood, because of this aluminum minings that happened in one of the state in the previous few years, and it caused polluted water. So sustainable development within sustainable mining are looking at preserve the environment, protect the indigenous culture, promote welfare of the local community. And all of these sustainable natural resource managements as the country itself have been pulled out in a several series of acts. First is National Mineral Policies, the second one in 2009, looking at sustainable mining. Although this picture here is not from Malaysia, this is one from, you look at the forest, it's not in the tropical country. This is one in the more cold climate country. It's up north. Where the extract is from? Not sure, Netherlands or things like that. Their mine, this is also a mining, but this mining is more like building tunnels, series of tunnel underneath without, clearings, all the green on the tops. And the second one is more like Geologists Act in 2008, looking at how the geologists should do mining itself and what is their role in protecting the minerals and the resources itself. And also there's a National Heritage Act in 2005. This is under Departments of Heritage, the commissions of heritage in the country. They are protecting all the natural resources, particularly the rocks that is easily um, fragile to economic development. If we look at the picture over there, there is limestones. Often in the country, all of these limestone have been outsourced for extractions for cements, for tiles, for many other sources that we need in the country. So National Heritage Act are looking at outstanding features within these rocks to be protected. So some of the environments, ecosystem created by the rocks will be protected and be preserved. And another approach that is more integrated of protecting non-renewable resources are the minerals, soil, fossil fuel, blending between sustainable mining as well as sustainable development is for UNESCO Global Geopark. It's looking at the bigger area with outstanding geological significance, particularly international geological significance. Within this area, it is important to manage it holistically and to protect and use it for education and sustainable development. And all these resources must be used to enhance awareness and understanding of key features facing society. What is it? It could be geological hazard, it could be climate change. In the case, we're either reducing it and how we adapt to it. UNESCO Global Geopark as well looking at how the people can be part of that conservation, part of that, utilizing that resources for economic benefit, and they also being upgraded or their place also being improved, their livelihood are being improved, not in terms of economic, but also infrastructure. This is looking at, infrastructure in the way of be able to bring in new economy by creations of, innovative local enterprise. If there's a new road being built to the international geological significant area, it will create innovative local enterprise. A new job will be created. A new source of revenues are generated through geotourism while we are protecting that geological resource. At present, there are more than 200 UNESCO Global Geoparks across the globe, which is mainly a country like Europe, Japan, Asia mainly. And if you look at the picture in the top, there is one from Langkawi, in the middle is from France. There's a mountain ecosystem, and then down south is one from Indonesia. That is one of the ecosystem on the top of the volcanic mountain. And within the UNESCO Global Geopark, the topics are much bigger in a way compared to World Heritage Site. Heritage Site is very much on PR conservation, but in the case of Geopark, conservation is one area, plus there's also an area for economics, there's an area for community development. Therefore, within Geopark, we're not just doing conservations, but we're also doing economic development. We also improving the livelihood of the people by putting more like green or harmonies to nature features or development. There's many areas that become a topics within UNESCO Global Geopark. Either the natural resources itself as a key thing, and what is geological hazard they often relate to the natural resources, climate change, educations on understanding the nature, science of the natural resources, culture of the people that influenced by the natural resource, and women empowerment or women involvement in protecting, in using, in any area involved with the natural resources, and sustainable development that brought by when we're protecting it, opening economic benefits, so there's a sustainable development to this area, and how the local indigenous knowledge are being protected, and lastly, the conservations or geo-conservations of that resources. So we come to the concluding remarks. This is concluding remarks by the trend in 2010. They're looking at, they consider in 2025, they believe that is next year though. Developments will arise not from a single specific resource. But I would like to speak of this and what we want in the future as well. This is still true for the next, I think, 5 or 10 years, that resources shouldn't become from any specific resource, but because it increased pressure on the entire ecosystem. But it's important they look into this emphasis on promoting integrated approach to sustainable resource so that all of us, be able to, if we want to protect it, if we want to use it, we want to continue to use and we need the benefit from the resources. We need to look into these approaches that already exist. For example, sustainable land management, the ecosystem approach, the forest landscape restorations. And now we could come with many other names, which is how we can look at the environment or resources itself. And in the near futures, we know that even today during pandemics, there's a lot more off-farm income opportunity have been pulled out to to the to the picture. Most of the farmer no longer on land, which is we no longer deprive the soil, but now we use hydroponic and more, huge farm have been created using that. Um, and then a lot more farm which is utilized more like factory-like instead of dependence on resources that we have and labor intensive. Still have it, but far less, we created more things in the past few years. Robotics help you to water it, except collecting it. Yeah. And then through the years, we realized this might be true in last 10 years and still true now as well. There is a need of reforming our local institutions. And many countries are working on this though. And strengthening government's accountability, enhancing competence. Not just a small group of people, not just a few officers, but empowering many other people to do it. That what a series of work have been done in resources, either for water or even geology, even for the soil, even for the forest, training for trainers. Because the establishment of enabling incentive so that we have better good governance, clear land use right, capacity buildings and others. So in this case, by having more people be able to be accountable to it, And also it is also important, not just having the government to be accountable and people part of it, but also provide a platform, which support to what is sustainable resource use. You know that globally there's so many approach that's try to, brought in some kind of resources in a still along, deprived way. But now if we are supporting a resources that is brought through sustainable processes, that will encourage more people, more people are doing it and involved in it. And for example, here, one of the more sustainable approach is fair trade to either the poor country. This is mainly benefit the poor country itself. Particularly when they are the producer. This is, we realize that crisis like COVID-19 definitely bring a great impact on food security in the country. If we look at the figure down below, there's a share of merchandise export and share of merchandise import. And we realize that through this crisis that a needs for developing countries to strengthen the effort to boost domestic food productions. Several countries they used to import some food from outside. When we have by pandemics, that become a really big problem in terms of food securities. And to ensure that all of universal access to food, measure need to be taken, either investment and distributions, storage infrastructure, processing facilities, the constitution of strategic food stock, targeted income support for vulnerable groups, and even streamlining policies and administrative procedures related to food trade. So previously, we just look at resources that are mainly either non-renewable resources that might impact us, but now we realize that renewable resources as well. I would like to bring your idea to volatility. Volatility. I got difficulty in pronouncing it. The sixth one. Do you remember the petroleum itself? When we announce it, the price will become high. So this is the key things that we need to look into here. And finally, accountabilities need to be improved at all levels. Ethical responsibilities for national government, administrations, the people, international community institutions, from the developed country to the poor country. It must benefit both though. And this is what we need for the world to, resolve it. But how far can we go with it? That depends on your country and how far your country willing to. I don't say that we all must reach it and do it, but at least we put some effort to move toward it. Because we know that some countries have their own constraints. Some countries have their own, abundance of things, and you'll be able to. Some we already have assistance in terms of policies, so we act and we can do it. Some need to start with that. Wherever it is, you have to start somewhere. Yeah, for your resources as well. So speaking of the role, as when we study these resources, we realize that it is the very simple things that we ought to do is our role as human is understand and how the nature and how the resources to work. Then we know how to manage it. Then we know how to utilize it better. And how we keep stock so that we continue to have it for a long term, so that the people are not just our generations, but the generations of future generations are not being compromised of their needs. And in this, I end with this quote that our role is to understand and work with the rest of the nature, not to conquer it. Because when we started to conquer it, it become communities alone and not kind of resources that it's ought to be, and natural resources that have their own way of producing and come about. With that, thank you so much.